1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Lay It on the Table, the Southern Board Game Podcast with the accent on Southern. That if we did this actually every 2 weeks like we're supposed to, I'd remember that so flawlessly and fluidly. But, you know, it is what it is. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mahaffey. And of course, always my partner in crime,
James Engelhardt. Good to see you again, Joe. That was a little stumble. That was just a little stumble. That was good. It was good. It does.
It happens, yes. How you been, James?
I've been well. It's been a busy March. Been over to Baltimore and up to Huntington, West Virginia. You've been traveling a lot too, I know.
Yep. But I've been going for work, where it sounds like you've been going for fun.
No, those have both been work as well. But probably more fun work than your work, because it was more like hang out with people you know, read poems, talk about games and poetry. And so, yeah. Which is
I hung out with people I knew and
that's awesome.
Gave presentations.
Yeah. I had 0 slides in my presentations. How about you?
There was 1 or 2, but I didn't really speak. It's funny. We actually, the event I was at last week was at the hotel that my wife and I honeymooned at.
Oh,
35 years ago.
I bet that was a lot more fun back then.
Let me think about that. A little bit more. Yes. A little bit more fun. All right, so let's hop into it.
Sure, man.
I'd love to tell you that I've played a lot of games here lately, but unfortunately, we've been involved with a number of other things that have just sort of made it hard for us to get anything on the table. But we did endeavor to try. But before we get into that, there's been a lot of noise lately on the tube of you of what's been going on in the world of D&D, and there have been a lot of different influencers and content creators talking about this. And of course, I like to go to the content creator that's not there for the clicks. And Professor Dungeon Master did a whole video on this. You're welcome to go see, but I grabbed the article that D&D is finally making peace with its legacy as Gygax returns. Yep. And in this instance, we're talking about Luke Gygax. At Gary Con was announced that he is coming back to Wizards to work with Wizards of the Coast on more Greyhawk D&D content, and it sounds like the Dragonlance books are coming back, and it sounds like Wizards of the Coast has finally figured out, oh, we've pissed off all these people that really are our core revenue. We should probably not do that anymore. It sounds like they got a new leader installed that seems to understand that, I guess.
It's key.
I think that there is, I think D&D might very well have that defense against the dark arts problem, where every so often that professor has to be replaced, because it seems like they've always had this up and down situation from its very beginning. But
drummers from Spinal Tap, and
it's you can't talk about Apple without talking about Wozniak and Jobs. And you can't talk about Dungeons and Dragons without Gary Gygax and Dave Armisen. And I don't care how many times you sell the property or whatever, you can't change the origin story, even though you might leave it out of a film and say based on Dungeons and Dragons by Hasbro.
I think the thing that comes to mind too as we think about this is that this is a fan-driven, bottom-up franchise. Most of them are, of course, but D&D is very much, you need to have these people participating and bought in and need to feel that they're heard. And every time they stop doing that, it seems like they lose their way. And every time they lean back into it, it's hard. There's millions of fans, right? And it's hard to say, well, whose voice matters? What should we be doing? But recognizing this is a game for people to game with, and it's not just a money grab. I think that's a key position to have.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I had a very fearful conversation this week.
No.
I was out in the front yard and my neighbor was walking his dog and we got to talking and he was telling me that he and his girlfriend are involved in a campaign. I was like, great. And he's like, yeah, and I'm a pugilist, which tells me, like a fighter, I would have called it a fighter, but he called it a pugilist.
Fisticuffs. Yeah.
And that he was, getting all the add-ons. Like, you would skin your character in
Sure. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh no. I was not that guy. I decided that, hey man, where, he was meeting the moment where he was. So
that's a beautiful thing.
Left it there.
And I think this is a thing that I was hearing the other day too, and I added this to our notes, that and this is also sort of fan-driven content, which is that there was going to be one D&D, right? 6 months ago, they were calling it one D&D, and everybody else is calling it 5.5. And then earlier this month, D&D official was like, "Yeah, okay, it's 5.5. That's yeah." So, pugilist.
Sometimes the vernacular wins out over everything else.
And it's a really great idea to pay attention to what your audience is saying and doing, and say, you know what? Yeah, the one D&D thing didn't stick. You know what? You all are making this happen, and y'all are the ones running this and buying this and playing this. So you know what? 5.5. That's where we are. Awesome.
5.5 it is.
Well,
we'll just have to wait and see. I did, though, notice. So Roll20 sent me an email letting me know that they had done a major upgrade to the Strahd package.
Oh, okay.
New maps, new, virtualization kind of stuff.
Okay.
And that they had done new character sheets. So the character sheets now inside of Roll20 look a lot more like D&D Beyond.
Okay.
So they're higher quality of production value, I guess I would say.
Okay.
So it was just kind of interesting to see what they were doing with that. And they've done some things where less work for the DM if you move the character over a certain place and trigger something that's supposed to happen. It kind of does enough of an effect to say, okay, something's changed.
Okay.
Which, that is sort of like online, but in my book, it's a little bit of more hybrid, and I'm sure I can get called out for that in terms of hypocrisy or whatever, but it's not a video game.
It is not. No, and lots of choices to make, fun things to do. Yeah.
But anyway, just thought that was kind of interesting. And they've also kind of expanded their platform to cover more of the other other gaming systems. So you can play Daggerheart on Roll20. You can play Shadow Dark. You can play, all the Pathfinder, of course.
Okay.
And so it's not it's a platform to bring your game together, whether you're remote like we were, or even if you're in the same room.
Cool. So it's a little more system agnostic, and then just
I mean, I've seen DMs that'll put like a TV on the table flat, and that's your map, and
that's cool.
There's I mean, I've got the ability to do that too. I just haven't been able to get everybody in the same room to do that.
This is fair. Yeah.
But I'm willing to learn. But anyway,
words to live by.
I digress.
No, it's all good.
Well, anyway, so we'll just have to wait and see how that continues to unfold. I encourage you to go check out the Professor Dungeon Master video on the topic. Everybody else is just clickbait. because everybody's covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, not a lot to report on the board game front.
Okay.
After we last met, Dale and I kept the Wingspan American expansion on the table.
How'd that treat you? How's that treating you?
Like I said, we've been playing it as a standalone game.
Right.
No rules, no fancy add-ons.
Nectar. Add-ons, right? Yeah. No pugilists.
I would say for a 2-player game, which is what we play, there's plenty of cards to do and really learn the mechanic. Now I think we could implement the other pieces and have a little bit more comprehensive experience, which I'm sure we will get around to. We're going to go down to the in-laws next weekend, and
awesome.
The daughters will be with us. And usually when they're like, "Hey, bring Wingspan,"
fabulous.
We have all these other games. No, bring Wingspan.
Well, it's good to have a fave, I guess.
Well, and in her mind, it's like, I know how to play it. I don't have to learn the rules. We can just get into it. And then we were also kind of feeling the feels of not having played a game in a bit. So we chose Trinket Trove. Because it was a matter of get it on the table fast, play a couple of rounds really fast, and we can check a box that we played a game. Because we, use that time as sort of our decompression.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah, it was a good thing to get into those. And after we've talked about both of those on the show plenty of times, so I'm not going to get into the wherefores and whys on that. No new insights came out of Trinket Trove, other than I won a couple of times.
Awesome. Well done. So how's the when you're playing the hummingbirds now and you're working on the hummingbird boards, how is that feeling a little smoother? Are you finding better combos off of that, or how's that going?
I got lucky the last time we played where I had a bird, and maybe I told you this in the last one, I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I had a card that basically said, if this bird is in your row, do this, which will allow you to return. You either retract or I had an attract and a return card.
Oh, okay.
Both on the board. So every time I got cards and every time I got food or eggs, I can't remember exactly where I put them. I was able to so I kept having extra
double the hummingbirds. That's awesome.
And because I got to, in some instances, choose, then I ended up with 2 bonus cards that were hummingbird adjacent, and I was able to plow them up the chart.
That sounds amazing.
I think I ended up with a score of 165 or something.
Whoa, that's fabulous. Okay.
But it was all hummingbird. It was hummingbirds and bonuses and eggs.
Comboing off of that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's also was the fact that we were 2 players just using that deck.
Just using America's, yeah.
They were shuffled really well, but the odds of you getting both of those cards in your hand out on the table early enough in the game for it to be impactful, because I think I got both of them out in the first round.
Oh man,
maybe the first or second round. So it was early in the game and enough to be impactful for the majority of the game.
Yeah,
and that's what really moved us up the track.
That would unlock some things. Yeah. Wow. So I've got, speaking of cards and card-driven games, last night was game night here at the house. So we had, we were a party of 15. We were a party of 15 last night. So Laura and I and 13 others. We had 4 tables going, lots of shenanigans. It was super fun. At my table, we played Bohemians, which was a birthday gift. I had a birthday at the beginning of the month, And so Bohemians was one of my birthday gifts from my lovely wife, and you can see the Bohemians cover over there. Pardon?
Is that a DeVere publication?
It is not. It is. It's Portal Games. So
Okay.
yeah, Ignacy Trzewiczek and those folk over there in Poland. But the designer is, I want to say he's Dutch, Jasper de Lange. So something like that. Yeah, it's Bohemia's a 2025 release from Portal Games. There we go. Various artists. That like a bunch of folk were on the list for this. And so it's a deck building game with a deep commitment to setting and theme. So you are artists in Paris in like the 1890s to 1910s.
Do you drink absinthe?
Hold on. Absinthe, the card. Yes, sir.
There you go.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Did you all drink absinthe?
Pardon?
Did you all drink absinthe?
We did not.
Oh.
It was more of a beer-driven night. Yeah. So a deck builder or Parisian artists, and the mechanisms are pretty, there's nothing really particularly new here, just the way that it's kind of combined. So it's a deck builder. So you draw cards, arrange a tableau, as opposed to like maybe playing them down one at a time. You lay out you draw 5, lay out at least 4, or lay out at least 3, maybe 4, that you arrange on a board in front of you. There are you're counting up different things, good things, bad things that happen, resolve the actions. They will let you buy upgraded cards. There are habits cards, muse cards. There's an achievement card. You only get one of those per turn if you can't afford it. And then maybe suffer hardships. That's another card that goes into your deck. And it's a race to get 4 or 5 achievements depending on the player count. The fun bit, is that the name of these cards, the cards that you play form a bit of a narrative, and the game encourages you to read the day when you lay out the cards. It's like a day, and it's a story. So you can have lots of different stuff that happen. Let's see, you lay out, let's see. You recount your adventures, and you wake up, then you roam the countryside, then you celebrate life and freedom, and then at the end of the day, embrace the unexpected. And this is helped along by the use of absinthe, perhaps, or Claude, or Florence. But then you also have the hardship cards, and so you were stumbling because of your fixation and your poor hygiene. So you have positives and negatives, and you can just tell this little story of what you did in the day, and you don't have to do it, but it's super fun. The other thing is that you're lining up these cards in your tableau, and they have these little symbols, sort of 2/3 or 1/3 of the way up, and you're lining up these icons, and they correspond roughly to the suits of the cards, and there's like 4 of them. And then you can line up those with bonuses on the player boards themselves or on the muse cards. So you're doing the usual deck builder thing of looking for combos, and then trying to scoop up cards from the market that work with the engine that seems to be working with your deck. One key tension is you also have a job, but it's like busker, cabaret attendant, all these different things, right? So if you play your job title into your tableau, you won't get as many inspiration points, which is what lets you buy new cards. But you will avoid picking up the hardship, which is, again, poor hygiene, grief, claustrophobia, hypersexuality, syphilis. Syphilis is a hardship you can get. And those tend to mess with your plans. But that's for a future you to deal with. My favorite, though, is the syphilis card, because if you play the syphilis card, if it shows up in your hand, you have to play it. And it lets you go through the deck and look for another syphilis card and then give it to another player. So that's super fun. And the thing that's hilarious, though, is that you actually come out with these stories, because you do get the my friend across the table from me had picked up a card. One of these habits cards was go to a brothel. that let her unlock a bunch of stuff. But then I got a syphilis card and then gave her syphilis. So then at one time she had go to a brothel, get, and syphilis. And I was like, yep, that's so you. And again, you don't functionally have to play the narratives, but man, it's fantastic for working through those stories. There are some questionable design choices. There's these type of cards. What kind of card is this? I don't know. There's this little bitty square at the bottom that tells you, and you're like, what even is that thing that I'm looking at?
A poppy?
Or a rose? One of the women I was playing with was like, is that a turkey? Like, yeah. So, yeah. And then the muse cards, these are the ones that the roses. The habit cards are little smoking pipes. I guess it's a nod to Marcel Duchamp. I don't know. So anyway, it can be hard to sort out what benefit is because you don't. The little icons are a little bit tiny. And then there's some of the orders of operations on some of the habit cards are a little like, wait, which comes first? So on the other hand, you get to play. There are 4 characters in the game, and you can play either as a painter, a sculptor, a composer, or, thank you very much, a poet. So, and when I was like, anybody can play anything else, I will be playing the poet. I did not win, but I got to play a poet in France around the turn of the 20th century.
Does the poet ever win?
This is, it's an open question. So there's some interlocking systems. It's pretty, but not too many. So it's pretty solid. It's pretty approachable. It says the runtime is about an hour for 4 players, and I think you could do that easily if you know the game. And again, you don't have to do the narration, but it's really fun. And at the end, after the game was over, we were sitting around just talking about the funny combinations of like narratives that we had about our games. So it really leans into that in a way that's quite satisfying and unexpected. But yeah, again, it's not really breaking new ground, but it's combining things in some fun and interesting ways. And the art is glorious.
Well, it sounds very interesting. I mean, being a big fan of La Boheme, and which of course then leads into Rent, the modern telling of La Boheme.
Indeed.
So, I mean, it's definitely a one of those things that keeps on resurfacing somewhere in our culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
It's a kind of, I mean, it's an interesting time, and the art is really fun, and it really is fun to just like, I woke up in the morning and I wrote until I couldn't stop. And then I went out and recounted my adventures. And then I was on the street busking. By the end of the night, I laid out my opinions with friends and Claude. Yeah, so anyway.
And got syphilis.
Got syphilis. The end got syphilis is pretty much the end. Yeah, that's what you should do for all of these, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and obviously the syphilis card and the way you have to give it away is the reason I must have thought it was a DeVere game, because it's like, oh, here's the candy.
Yeah.
Kind of
Rockstar.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, and it's I mean it has, I think it lends itself to narrative to the way Rockstar does. But it's a different era, different stuff. Although, you're still taking absinthe and getting addicted to things. The poor hygiene thing is probably 1977 too, for that matter. Narcissism, the narcissism card certainly tracks. Cholera, a little less so, but
a little Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Right, love in the time of. Yeah, it's there's shunned by peers. That's another hardship you can go through. So it does lend itself to those kind of narratives the way that Rock Hard absolutely does.
Neat. Well, that sounds like
I'm gonna reclaim that name because I said Rockstar a couple of times. It is Rock Hard 1977.
Rock Hard
1977. I apologize to
it's okay when she comes on the show.
Right.
We can talk about it then. Until then,
here we are.
with rock hard, steady.
Rocksteady is good. Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's pretty. It's not. I mean, it's not a heavy game by any means, but it's also one that you wouldn't want to spring on unsuspecting newcomers.
Right.
And if you want something that's kind of very medium light, and if you're familiar with deck builders, it's just getting used to the iconography and figuring out what the combos are going to look like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, it looks like a pretty game.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, so have to check it out.
You would hope that a game about artists would have pretty art, right?
You would hope.
You would.
I'm not saying that there's some that don't, but
it is true.
I'm not saying it.
Indeed. So anything else new in your gaming life here?
No, I mean, we haven't even, none have even shown up on the doorstep. It's been just sort of we've been so focused on this other project that we've got going on here at the house. It's sort of been somewhat consuming, but we will get back to it. I mean, one of the goals of doing this is because to create more space and to make it so we can entertain more, which would also allow us to play more games because we can invite people over, which we don't feel, we meaning not me, but somebody else in my life doesn't feel comfortable doing that at the moment.
Well, and I think one of the
should not be.
I think those of us who live around in this region I know you've been working on outdoor spaces, and that's something that you can use 9 months out of the year, mostly, potentially, and frequently 10.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. But yeah, we're almost there. We're just waiting for a permit to get approved, and then we will be under construction.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I was out today. So one of the games that Laura played at game night was Trailblazers, and she had a great time playing it. But it turns out when we went to the game store, I went to the game store today, and it is out at the distributor level, and so they are reprinting, and it'll be available again at Gen Con. So instead of coming home with Trailblazers, I came home with Fea's Swamp that is back there. I think that's the one I'm looking at. Yeah. So I'm looking forward. I've been really interested in how that game works, and it's a re-implementation of Kaibai, but I think a little less spiky, so I'm looking forward to trying that. I haven't even punched. I broke the shrink wrap and smelled the amazing smells of fresh ink, but I've not even had a chance to punch it yet, so I'm looking forward to that.
Ritual in our house.
The punching and
punching. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There when my youngest was still in college and was doing biology projects,
punching out the bones and yeah.
No, but Dale would save the punch outs so she could do do a circle and do her
yeah.
Use it as like a template.
Yep. I tried to do that a couple times with Sky and with Emerson, but they're both like, meh. Like, no, you can make fun shapes. Like, meh.
I just try to get it in the recycling bin before anybody sees
it. That's kind of, yeah.
Or the latest thing has been that if you put them in the bottom of the box and then put the
stuff lifts them up. Yep.
Lifts them up. It prevents it from being that shaky.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
So another thing I've been thinking about. So I went and got Fea Swamp today, but a week or so ago, friends of mine were out because these are people who like to hit little shops, little secondhand shops, thrift stores, all that kind of stuff. And they come across weird things every so often. And they found this game called Al-Rashid, which should be right over there. Al-Rashid. There he is. Which is Harun al-Rashid was the fifth great caliph of the Abbasid dynasty, right? And it's this, it's sort of a influence, area influence game, and you're moving around and doing stuff. Mm-hmm. But what is really interesting about it is that the rule book is absolutely horrifying. Now, Al-Rashid's a game from like, I want to say 2011, 2012. And I keep thinking that we've come a long way since then, 2012. Yep. So there are, one of the things that it's terrible about this game book is that if you look through it, flip through this, there are no illustrations of anything in this booklet. You don't get like what the bits look like. You don't get what situations might look like. Mm-hmm. You don't like even just the pieces themselves. There's no illustration like this is, you put out the spice markers like, what the hell is that one, right? One of my favorites is the key details are set up like on page 8 or 10 of the book. Like you have to put these tiles out. Like, okay, which one of these tiles? I don't know. I think it's gonna be. And you get to page 8, and they're like, these tiles look like this. These tiles look like that. I'm like, dude, I was setting that up 7 pages ago. What are we doing? One of my favorites too is that instead of influence, like who has influence in a region, they call it dominance. Who has dominance? I'm like, well, that's awkward. Couldn't we just do influence? So that's kind of odd.
What is this game?
2012.
Okay, that tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They have palace guilds, and they sometimes call them guilds, and they sometimes call them palaces. And you have 3 things that you can do. That's like a top, middle, bottom. You have to do at least 1. You can do 2, but and never 3. The counting shall be 3. Do not proceed to 4. 5 is right out, right? Right. So you can do right. But they separate the things that you do. So first palace, action 1. Second palace, action 1. Third palace, action instead of palace 1, action 1, 2, 3, right? So just, oh yeah, you're just like, man, I just want to know what I can do in one place. And then there's this graphic design, which is a different thing, but like there are these tiles that have like 8-point font on them. So yeah. So it's interesting because I think it's an interesting game, but the rule set itself just gets in the way.
Right.
I think it was their first game, this publisher's first game, so I hope they've learned more. And so I just thinking about like how, well, one, there's a really bad rule set for a game called Return of the Heroes.
Right.
Where it was written as a narrative. Like characters would come on, I'm one of the heroes and I'm going to tell you how to do movement. I'm a hero, I'm going to tell you how to do combat. But it is just a story and it doesn't really build around the games themselves. And then I was looking at Wingspan today and thinking, it's a really, really nicely done rule book. Everything is where you want it to be. There's one page that's just devoted to each of the 4 actions. It's clearly labeled, lots of illustrations around what the cards are supposed to be doing and how they interact and how they play through. And I just think we still have bad rule books out there, but man, we've come a long way in the last 10, 15 years. And I just kind of wanted to celebrate that a little bit.
Well, and it's interesting you bring that up because, well, first of all, I'll share with you sort of a couple of games from my experience. I think the worst rule book I've ever experienced was the Santa Monica rule book.
No, okay.
It was almost like in Santa Monica, it's a you're collecting cards, you're kind of laying down the streets of Santa Monica, and you're trying to build a tableau, and there's certain rules and regs and such. Anyway, the rule book is just horrible. At least in the first edition. Maybe they've improved it. I don't know, but it's just was absolutely. And in fact, everybody that reviewed it said, "Great game." I mean, it was that kind of noticeable thing. I mean, it's like spelling errors, grammatical errors. I think I'm looking at this now. It's been translated into, but it's not It's an AEG game too, which was another surprise because it was from an established publisher.
Yeah.
You would have thought it would have taken the time if they were going to go through the printing and the distribution, double check the book.
Yeah. Because I mean, this was their first outing. That's one thing. Yeah.
And then I think the flip side to that, you mentioned Wingspan. Of course, we've seen some really good. And you asked me before we got started about Obsession, and Obsession is extremely comprehensive, but it's extremely comprehensive. And so what we do with that book is I get the little Post-it tabs.
Mm-hmm.
The most common thing that we always have to constantly look up, I tab it.
Awesome.
Is a way to make it a little bit more ready reference. Now, I think I've already talked about us downloading rule books and uploading them into Notebook LLM or Notebook LM and using that as hey, I'm just going to ask the LM. Because here's the thing, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If something you want to do is not explicitly covered in the rule book, does that mean you can do it or that you can't do it?
So this reminds me of rule books in the early aughts always had a rule of you cannot trade resources. I think this was because there are a bunch of early trading games. Catan is clearly the big example of this, right? And they're like, well, can't I just trade this across the table? And so many of these books were like, you cannot trade resources. And they drifted away from that. You don't see that anymore, right? Nobody is saying, well, you can't trade eggs in Wingspan. Nothing says you can't. Like, I need an egg. Could I give you food for an egg in Wingspan? It's not there. So I generally think no, right?
Well, no, something obvious like that, I think I could say too. I'm trying to think of an example.
But that was an example that people came up with a lot. Like, I've got money, you've got stuff. Can we trade them?
It's more like the mechanic of stacking bonuses or
okay. Yeah.
Certain things that are just not things that we run into that are just because, like Dale is always about the bonuses and the end of game and all these different things. And then we'll invariably hit something that says, does this stack? We've learned the and or versus or, kind of thing.
May or must, right?
Right. But sometimes it's just omitted.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, and I think this is so in researching this little bit, I ran across a dude who had gotten into rewriting rule books, because there were some bad ones, and he was like, "Oh, I'm trying to make this a little clearer," and so people liked it, and wrote another one. People liked it, and then he's like, maybe I've got a thing for this, so I'll take a technical writing class. It's like, okay, this feels like I'm doing well. Then decided to do a whole degree in technical writing and graphic design, some kind of hybrid thing there. And then was horrified at his past work. It's like, no. And so that turned into a 92 page, and I think it's his master's thesis now, of thinking through how you build a rule book and what you should and shouldn't. But I think particularly how you think about okay, yeah, stacking is a thing that we need to talk about. And I think this is and I've seen this elsewhere too, you should get your rule book play tested. If you're doing a blind play test, you should send your rule book and then watch people respond basically to how the rule book goes, right? And as you're watching the play test, ask yourself, how are they, what's coming up that they just sort of wash over and keep moving, and that's a thing you need to make sure that you're marking down, right?
Well, it's interesting too, because I think that I think Jamie talks a lot about the rule book in some of his blog posts, and I think we talked a little bit about it when we were talking to the Spirits of Christmas episode, and some of the good things that he pulled out of that. I think, from my perspective, this trend of here's a rule book, but here's the quick start guide. I
Right.
like the quick start guide. What gets you on the table playing? And I don't know if you've seen these games that come
Yep.
with the app that you can pull out the iPhone or the Android, and it walks you through the first round. I have kind of mixed feelings about those.
Sure.
But I do like the quick start guides. Put this over here, this goes here, this goes here. Here are some options for your first round. You don't have to follow, but it's just enough to kind of get you. Because usually when you've got a game, in my experience, that you're trying to teach somebody, if you can just get them through the first round, they tend to catch up.
Man, I want to say that from back in the day, El Grande has something like that, where it's just like step through what you're going to do and what that's going to look like. And it's sort of like watch a couple of bots play, which is interesting. And that's what I like about it is it gets you, because the rule books are themselves sort of a barrier, right? They're like somebody has to digest this and be able to play it, right? And so you can start teaching it. On the other hand, it would be great if you just like open up and we can just start going, because it'd be great to just start going. And so there's kind of you have to, if I'm getting ready for game night and prepping 3 or 4 games, we're going to play one of them and not the other 2 or 3. And that's just time I've lost. Although I think I've learned a lot about different things doing it, but still, it's like you just have to commit to that, and that's just what you're going to invest in. But not a lot of people like to do that. I understand this. So the thing that I think you miss if you're just doing the quick start is like nuances, like edge cases, questions that are going to come up later. Like, well, what about that? Like, I don't know. I haven't read the rule book. We just did the quick start. That's one of, we might share that hesitation.
Well, we'll keep when we have a quick start, we generally keep the rule book there.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And we're digging into it and looking for it. And I'm like, flip, trying
right.
to find, what's going to give us the sense of how do you do this? And then you get to the scoring and like, oh, hold on a minute. How do you score this again?
Yeah. But then you wonder about some of the other apparatus of the book. Like, does it have table of contents? Does it have an index? Some sort of...
very rarely do I see indices.
Glossary. Oh, I know. Or a glossary of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah. Very rare. I mean, I don't see a lot of money being spent on the rule book.
No.
Right? And I get it. I mean, it's expensive to print, and particularly if you do the high gloss or the matte paper and the nice fold over and it matches the box. And I mean, there's a lot of expense that goes into it. I'm not
absolutely
insensitive, but I think at the end of the day, you want to be very crystal clear about the rules.
That is correct.
Yep. And there are some, designers that will set up a forum on Board Game Geek and they'll answer questions.
Oh, yeah. So many. It's really good. I really appreciate that.
And by the way, I found an old forum inside of Board Game Geek called The Worst and Best Rule Books.
Oh, yeah. I saw that earlier too. Yeah.
I dropped that into the show notes so and checked it out, because I think what was funny is what caught my attention as I was quickly scrolling them. And it says here pretty much any game from Portal Games.
And I thought Bohemian is actually pretty good. Robinson Crusoe is notoriously bad.
Keep in mind, this is from 2022.
Okay.
To stick with the Monty Python theme, they got better.
They did.
So, anyway.
Not dead yet. And, and Robinson Crusoe certainly shows up on that list a lot too, which is a Portal game. And yeah.
Well, just hopefully people will continue the trend of, if you want your game to sell and be popular, you might want it to be accessible. And accessible doesn't need to be easy. Accessible just needs to be easy to understand. Easy to understand.
I think that's right.
You can have very complex rules, but yeah.
Well, and I mentioned Return of the Heroes, and the consensus is it's not a difficult game. It's kind of an early dungeon crawl. There were a couple of rune quests and others that were out at the time, but the rule set was so opaque. I have 2 different reinterpreted rule sets of that. I also have a rewritten rule set for Al Rashid over here too. I worked through that and I was like, oh yeah, makes a lot more sense organized in this way. And some of them, I don't know, one of the impulses I think in rule set design is you want to give people the flavor of the thing, and so it's thematic, and so this is why you're doing the thing. But like a sentence will establish that, and instead they're doing like paragraphs. You're like, my dudes, I love you, but no.
Everybody wants to play the poet.
My dear brothers in games, please don't do that. Yeah. And I think, but I think it's maybe a poetry thing, but it's just an over explaining thing. Like, I want you to really get this. No, really, dude, listen to me. This is amazing, right? And you're like, no, your conspiracy theory is absolutely batshit. Yeah.
I was just taking it full circle back.
I did appreciate that.
Well, maybe they'll get it all sorted out with future. We'll find out.
My hope's not through the roof, but it's clear, I think, that we've moved a long way from this. So El Rashid. So I'm hoping we keep an upward trajectory.
Yes. Well, that's all I got today.
That's all for me.
Well, in that case, I'm Joe Mahaffey, and I'm not board gaming at the moment. I got to get both of those kind of sorted out and get back on the table.
Yeah, man.
If it helps, I'm doing Morse code now at 13 words a minute.
Whew. You're burning up the clicker.
Something like that.
And I'm James Engelhardt, and I hope that all your tiebreakers break your way.
So we will eventually get these published, and we will be back in a couple of weeks. So thank you for attending this broadcast. Came from.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
In a world of cardboard.